Praise the Lord, everybody. Dr. Brian Scott with you. We continue to record for you these Insight to End Time podcasts. They're short, to the point. We're trying to bring some things to your attention to make you aware of the fact we're in the last days. We're in the end times. Things are going to change. We're going to see the 7 years of tribulation come upon the earth. People are becoming very much aware of things like end times and the rapture and the mark of the beast and Armageddon and terms like that. We've been sharing with you now for over 26 weeks all these kind of references and all these kinds of sayings to bring them to your attention, to let you know where we are in these last days. Today I want to talk about another current event situation, and we're going to start off with a couple of scriptures out of the book of James, chapter 3, verse 16. I'm going to read two translations to you. The first one is the King James Version. Of course, I think everyone's familiar with it. It says, "Where envying and strife is, there will be confusion and every evil work." To paraphrase, where we have a lot of strife and envy going on, we're going to have a lot of confusion and evil going on. That defines the day in which we live. To read it from the New Living Translation, here's what it says: "Wherever there is jealousy and selfish ambition, there you will find disorder and evil of every kind." Doesn't that help us understand where we are today? Where there is envying and selfish ambition, the me organization, the me generation, me. Do you realize that our leadership in the land at the government level, they set the course of our society and they set the course of our nation. But do you realize how they operate? They operate in arguing across the floor, one to another, bickering, shouting, being belligerent, selfish ambition on steroids. Hallelujah. That's the way the system works. I don't like the system, but that's the way the system works. And the verses say, where there is envying and selfish ambition, or where there is envy and strife, you're going to have a lot of confusion, a lot of evil work. Now, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but that is a breeding ground for the confusion and strife that we have in our society today that just keeps getting worse and worse. Dr. Hilton Sutton was a wonderful prophetic teacher of the end time scriptures. He was a father in the faith to me, a very dear friend. He had this statement he made on a regular basis. He said, "Our governments are full of professional politicians. We lack statesmen. A statesman makes a decision that's best for the country, for the current and long term. That's not necessarily the case with politicians." Here's another father in the faith to me, Dr. Edwin Lewis Cole. He had a tremendous number of Coleisms. Here's one of them: "Where there's a lot of love in the land, there's little need for law. But if there is a scarcity of love in the land, you're going to need a lot of law." Well, we seem to have a lot of law today. And we're living in perilous times today. That's for sure. Now think about our nation, the nation of Canada. We are one of the richest resource nations in the entire world. We have resources more than we'll ever be able to use. And yet at the same time, we have a movement coming out of our leadership for greening our economy and greening our environment and greening our life. In other words, we are wanting to shut down everything that has resource orientation. So they do it in the name of climate change and the need to go green in all of these categories. So they're shutting so many things down. But our country is so large. It has so many open areas with vegetation and trees and forests and so on, that the scientists tell us that our vegetation, our nature, is more than sufficient to cancel any of the emissions that are coming forth, to equalize them, to wipe them out. Our nation is not a nation that produces a lot of fossil fuel emissions and so on. Nowhere close to other nations in the world. But we're focused on greening the nation at a great expense to everything else going on. So my point is, I'm not an expert on this. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but this much I can say. We have a lot of confusion. Reports come out, scientific research comes out, and so on and so forth, and it says no to what they're saying is yes, but we don't pay attention to it. So the bottom line is that we've got confusion in the land, and there's all kinds of evil going on. I got two last verses for you to close with. Praise the Lord. Good session today. Here's a verse out of the Old Testament. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 9 says, the heart is deceitful above all things, and it's desperately wicked. And here's one out of Ephesians chapter 4, verse 14. It says that we should no longer be children tossed to and fro, carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the trickery of men, in the cunning craftiness of deceitful plotting. Well, I should conclude by saying this. We've got a lot of that going on in the land, a lot of that going on in leadership, a lot of that going on in everybody's mind. We're in the last days. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of confusion. And because there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of stuff going on that isn't what we need it to be. See you tomorrow. We're going to be back with another great word for you. Thank you. Bye.